Tudo bem, pessoal? Meu nome é Leandro, eu sou gerente de propaganda médica aqui da Inove Magistral. Nós estamos hoje com o Loic, ele é vice-presidente para as Américas da Finova, um parceiro importante nosso, né, ingredientes. Então, Loic, se puder se apresentar para a gente, fica à vontade.
No, thank you for having me. It's great to be here and partnering with you. So I'm originally from Belgium, but I've been living in the US for 15 years. I live in New York. I'm a biological engineer and specialize in biochemistry, and then I did my MBA in the US as well.
Ok. Bom, gente, nós vamos falar hoje aqui sobre um produto novo que nós estamos trazendo para o mercado. A Finova ela tem como o seu grande core business, né, a pesquisa e desenvolvimento de produtos para doenças metabólicas. E falar sobre essas doenças metabólicas nos traz vários aspectos de doenças, como por exemplo a diabetes. Loic, dentre essas doenças, qual é essa relação entre as doenças metabólicas e os malefícios para a saúde?
So you briefly talked about Finova. So at Finova, we specialize in developing natural botanical ingredients that target specific issues that are usually chronic. So metabolic health was the very first issue we were trying to attack. And so we developed an ingredient called Reducose. The reason why we believe metabolic health is so central is because metabolic health is the foundation of our health. We have a lot of conversations around long-term issues with our health, like cardiovascular, like non-alcoholic fatty liver, like renal failure, or even diabetes. Mm-hmm. But when you ask consumers on the street, and there's a lot of studies that show this, is that a lot of the consumers really care about how they feel today and tomorrow. An example is being able to have enough energy, being able to focus or have the right memory, being able to be strong enough to play with your kids. A lot of them are not directly linked to the solutions for the long term. However, when you look at the source of all of those, whether it is long term or it is short term, a lot of it is rooted in the foundations of a healthy metabolic syndrome.
Ok. E para a gente falar um pouquinho mais sobre a parte, principalmente, né, do Reducose, lá como o Loic falou, é muito importante a gente lembrar que um dos maiores vilões hoje, falando em doenças metabólicas, especificamente em diabetes, é o açúcar. Né? Mas uma coisa que a gente nem sempre dá tanta atenção assim é que o açúcar está presente na nossa dieta dita saudável. Então, por exemplo, o açúcar ele acaba sendo derivado, por exemplo, de arroz, de macarrão e em alguns outros alimentos que efetivamente eles são alimentos saudáveis, mas que em grandes quantidades podem nos causar problemas. Né? E para a gente tentar amenizar esses problemas é que a gente está trazendo o Reducose para o mercado. E o que é o Reducose?
So Reducose is a very strict patented process of purification and extraction. We also have a very long program of agriculture to make sure we have the exact right bioactives in the raw material. And so we make sure that the Reducose product is standardized to the right bioactives that are really important for the mechanism of action.
Legal. E qual é esse mecanismo de ação tão exclusivo?
So the mechanism of action is in fact very, very simple and very unique because it's the main active in Reducose. It's not the only active that will have effects, but the main active is called deoxynorigimycin. We say D&J because it's easier. It looks very much, from a molecular structure, it looks very much like glucose. There's a slightly different on the oxygen group. It's a nitrogen group. But so the fact that it's so similar, we're able to have the D&J go into the active site of the alpha-glucosidase. And so the alpha-glucosidase is the main enzyme in your upper part of your intestine that is able to hydrolyze the glycosidic bonds of starch and disaccharides and above. And so when you're able to competitively inhibit the enzyme, you're able to prevent the further digestions of carbs.
Então, por que não só reduzir a quantidade de carboidrato na dieta?
It's a really good question. If we could, we would probably be the best solution. The main reason is that carbohydrates are really everywhere in our food system. It's 74%. I mean, those are numbers from the US, but 74% of the food, present in every shelf in the store, in your plate, is carbohydrates. So it's really hard to avoid carbohydrates on a day-to-day basis. We can try and avoid the sugars. The industry is doing a lot of efforts to remove sugars, but sugars, when it comes to metabolic health, sugar is only part of the story. The other part is really the complex carbs. Carbs we believe could potentially be healthier. Like, give an example with sushi. We had sushi, you and I, at lunch. We really believe sushi is a really good and healthy solution. It's definitely not unhealthy. I'm not saying you should not eat sushi. But when it comes to metabolic health and spiking your blood and spiking your insulin, carbohydrates is twice as bad. A bowl of 50 grams of rice, which we ate at sushi, it's worse than 2 cans of Coke. Asking such a large population, 80% of the population, to avoid 74% of the food they eat, it's really hard. And even countries, countries in the US, for instance, sugar industry is subsidized. So it's also the cheapest food. So now you're asking people that don't make a lot of money to buy food that's more expensive. It's impossible to do this like this. But solving metabolic health needs to happen fast. So having what I call enabling solutions. It's a small solution that helps you get back on track in the positive cycle. Reducose is not there. It's not there to protect you from every bad decision you make. You need to be able to continue on a healthy diet, but to start people on a healthy diet, to help people, just like a coach would help you on getting back into your exercise every day. Once you get these right habits in turn, that's when the tremendous switch can happen. And so that's what we believe our mission is with Reducose and then with Innova.
Ok. Uma das coisas que nós conversamos previamente é que ele estimula a produção endógena de GLP-1. Pode falar um pouquinho para a gente sobre isso?
Yeah, no, so the mechanism of action is very clear, but then what's important is that, blocking alpha-glucosidase per se doesn't really affect the overall benefit you feel. What it does affect is, number one, is that you will reduce your postprandial glucose levels, will also reduce, therefore, your postprandial insulin level, your total area under the curve. And then all of those carbohydrates that have not been digested, we typically calculate that it's between 20 and 30% of the carbs you have eaten. You mentioned, rice. So all of these carbs move along to your second part of your intestine. And that's typically where your body will recognize it had enough food. And the recognizing is called the ileum brake. And the ileum brake is a messaging system through hormones to your brain that gives you the signal that you've had enough food. And the signals are given by 3 main hormones, PYY, CCK, and then the very famous GLP-1.
Ok. Em quanto tempo o paciente consegue perceber os seus benefícios?
So so the beauty with Reducose is that we have benefits on the short term, the medium term, and then the long term. The very short term is 1 hour. So you really are able with Reducose to block the digestion of carbs within the moment you're eating. And that's the moment you will lower your insulin, lower your glucose. You will prevent the hypoglycemia after dinner. So all of these, you will feel the effect. Now, the feeling of fullness, the satiety, thanks to GLP-1, will in fact happen throughout the day. So over the course of 1, 2, 3 hours later in the day, you'll feel less hungry, less craving for sugar, less craving for sweets. But then the very chronic use is if you repeat this constantly day after day, week after week, you're able to lower the average caloric intake, lower the average amount of insulin excretion that you have, which typically is responsible for storage in fat. So you'll see benefits like weight management, improved mood, improved sleep. So all of these are in fact known in the world of fasting. So when you stop eating, this is typically things that people totally understand, and so we're able to work around the same lines of mechanism. And so now we're also, with partners like yourself, very invested in studying all of these benefits all the way through.
Por falar em estudos, quantos estudos hoje nós já temos do Reducose?
So right now we already have 10 published human clinical trials. They're all randomized, placebo-controlled. Some of them are even crossover with a wash period between. And so now we are also invested. We invested basically all of our net income of the previous years into more studies. So we have currently 5 ongoing studies on a total general metabolic health. So looking at cholesterol, LDL, HDL, blood pressure, body weight composition. Then we have another one on aging. We have another one on cognitive, mood and anxiety. And then recently we're also won a prize for a menopause study.
Muito legal. Bom, para a gente finalizar aqui, qual seria o principal ponto para a gente falar de Reducose, a mensagem que nós levaríamos para o médico e para os pacientes que utilizarão Reducose?
So I think the most important part of Reducose in the world we live in is that it really helps reestablish the foundation of your health. You can try as many ingredients or as many solutions as you want. If you don't have a strong basis, a strong foundation, you will continuously fail to improve significant. So the way we see it across the world is that Reducose becomes really the foundation of a formula. Of each formula, you're doing a foundation, a formula for menopause, a formula for PCOS. You start by reestablishing the metabolic health, and there you add the additional benefits of an inositol or of a saffron or something of those likes. So I think the beauty of having a solution that can really tackle the main foundational issue. I read in Brazil, there's over 80% that are metabolically unhealthy. So basically it's important for 80% of the people in Brazil. But it's also, we're not asking from you to change your completely diet or to completely change your gene. It's very convenient. You take Reducose before your meal. It's an easy, small dose. And we can use it chronically because there's no reported side effects.
Loki, muito obrigado.
Muito obrigado.
Gente, obrigado por assistir esse vídeo. Para assistir esses e outros vídeos, acesse Inoveplay no YouTube.